11 years after boy sends shoebox gift, he meets a person who changes his life. Sometimes it's the smallest things in life that can have the biggest impact on our futures. Take Tyrell Wolf and Joanna Marchand, for example. They were two people from opposite sides of the world brought together by a very simple act of kindness. It was just a normal day for 18-year-old Tyrell Wolf. He was going about his daily routine when he received an odd friend request on Facebook. For anyone who uses the social media site, you know that this happens to everyone occasionally. More often than not, it stirs wariness about some scams and spam. So, keeping that in mind, Tyrell decided that he would just delete the random request from the stranger and move on with his life. He didn't put much thought into it at the time, but little did he know that that same person would eventually come back to play a major role in his life. The seemingly random woman who sent the request was named Joanna Marchand, a resident of the Philippines. Tyrell had neither been to the Philippines in his life nor did he recognize the name Joanna Marchand, but there was something else that also caught Tyrell's attention. After reviewing Joanna's Facebook profile, he noticed something odd. From the looks of it, Joanna had never been to the United States and much less to Tyrell's small town in Idaho. Tyrell tried to put the odd occurrence out of his head, figuring that she either had the wrong person or she was indeed some kind of bot internet scammer, but he didn't know that she would soon change his life. He went about living his life normally in his small country town, but just when everything was back to normal, something strange happened again. It was like deja vu. Tyrell received another peculiar request on Facebook. His curiosity had now peaked and he had to know the truth. After lots of thinking and consulting with friends and family, Tyrell decided that he was indeed going to reach out to this mysterious Joanna woman and finally find out the full story from her. So one day he mustered all the courage he could and messaged her back. Taking the short and sweet route, he bluntly wrote, "How do you know me?" But the message that he received back was far from what he'd expected. Instead of simply answering his short question, Joanna sent him another question, one that would stump Tyrell and make him search deep into his past. Joanna asked Tyrell if he knew of something called Samaritan's Purse. After thinking about it, Tyrell suddenly recalled a time far back in his past when he was just 7 years old. He remembered that he'd been part of a program called Operation Christmas Child, an organization created by none other than the nonprofit called Samaritan's Purse. Every year, the organization would pack shoe boxes full of gifts for less fortunate children around the world for Christmas. The boxes included things like small toys, toiletries, and even school supplies. Then Joanna revealed that she had been the recipient of his Christmas shoebox gift all those years ago. Tyrell was shocked. He couldn't believe that the recipient of his shoebox had actually remembered his name for so many years and had decided to reach out to him on Facebook now. But while Tyrell was pleasantly surprised, other people were very concerned and not happy with what was going on. Those who were most worried and concerned for Tyrell were undoubtedly his parents. They were afraid that Joanna was out to deceive Tyrell by gaining his trust online before asking for money or something worse. After much thought, they decided there was one way to make sure that Joanna was telling the truth, to test her, and that was exactly what Tyrell did. The only test that Tyrell could think of to ensure that this woman did indeed receive his gift box so many years ago was ask her to verify the contents of the present. Unfortunately, Joanna didn't remember everything that was in the shoebox. She did, however, remember one very important detail, and that vital indicator would be a dead giveaway. She wrote that she'd received a photo of a cute cowboy with a wooden background. Tyrell knew this picture well and knew that it was the exact photo that he had placed inside of the shoebox many years ago. Tyrell knew 100% that she was telling the truth about the whole thing. But soon, the seemingly innocent Facebook connection would catapult to a whole other level. Joanna did indeed thank Tyrell for the nice Christmas gift, but she also wanted to get to know this mystery man from the other side of the world. As time went by, the unlikely duo continued talking online. It even got to the point that they began speaking daily as they found they had a lot in common. Just like that, more than a year and a half had passed and the two felt like they knew each other very well. By the time Tyrell had graduated from high school and was planning his next steps for his future, and they were definitely big plans. From early on in his correspondence with Joanna, Tyrell had started to save up money. He knew that one day the two of them were going to meet, so one day he sent her a message asking if he could come to the Philippines to visit. Joanna was ecstatic. Of course she wanted Tyrell to come visit her. The time finally came and Tyrell boarded a plane to the Philippines. It usually takes at least 14 hours to get from Idaho to the Philippines, but for Tyrell it was more than worth it. When he finally landed, Joanna and her family all welcomed Tyrell into their home with open arms and kind gestures. Soon, a month had passed and Tyrell was still in the Philippines with Joanna. Neither could believe just how much time had gone by so quickly. Although neither wanted Tyrell to leave, the time for him to return home was growing closer, and so had Joanna and Tyrell. At that point, they were far closer than just friends. Separation from one another was very difficult, and it seemed that the distance would just be too difficult to maintain their relationship, but they promised to meet again, and Tyrell immediately got to work. From the second that Tyrell returned to his small town in Idaho, he started saving up money again. Tyrell's second trip to visit Joanna was even better than the first. Their relationship deepened even further, and soon enough the two were falling in love with each other. By Tyrell's third trip to the Philippines, he had learned enough Tagalog, the native tongue of the Philippines, to speak with Joanna's father privately. In what seemed like an abrupt and out-of-the-blue request, Tyrell asked for Joanna's hand in marriage. Joanna's father graciously accepted Tyrell's request to marry his daughter, but not all of her family was as pleased with the idea as Joanna's father was. The person who was most hesitant about Tyrell and Joanna marrying was Joanna's mother. For her, it felt like everything was moving just a bit too quickly. She wanted the couple to slow things down and really get to know each other much better before jumping into marriage. Tyrell understood and respected her opinion, but he wasn't about to give up and decided to bring in reinforcements. Tyrell felt it would help the situation some if Joanna's family were able to meet someone from his family to help clear the air. So Tyrell convinced his father that it would be a good idea for him to come to the Philippines and meet the family of the woman he loved. Tyrell's father eventually agreed to the request, understanding that his son was very intent on marrying Joanna and that he wanted to do it right. After meeting with Tyrell's father, Joanna's mother agreed and gave her blessing for Tyrell and Joanna to marry. The couple was thrilled. It was like a dream come true. The wedding plans moved quickly and the two ended up getting married in October of 2014 in a simple wedding at Tyrell's parents' ranch, but it wasn't your typical wedding. For their wedding gifts, the happy couple asked their guests to bring none other than shoeboxes, but not just any typical shoebox. Tyrell and Joanna asked their wedding guests to bring shoeboxes full of small gifts to be donated to Operation Christmas Child, the same organization that eventually brought Tyrell and Joanna together. But they had made one additional special request of their guests. They were all asked to include, in addition to the gift boxes, one very special item. A note that explained how Tyrell and Joanna met, eventually fell in love, and ended up marrying each other. Most would assume that they included the note to give underprivileged children a hopeful fantasy to aspire to, just like that of Tyrell and Joanna. But they actually put the notes in the shoeboxes in order to teach each other what kind of good things can come out of helping others in need. And the good things just kept coming, as the now married Joanna and Tyrell welcomed a baby boy to the family named Harlan John Wolf. Tyrell and Joanna have expressed their gratitude for every day that they've had together, and their pride in knowing that their story has spread around the world and inspired others to give to charity. 4 years after their wedding, the couple is still living out their happy lives in rural Idaho, traveling frequently. They'll never forget how they met and the amazing story that followed. And to think, it was all because of a shoebox and a photograph. Seems like their story really struck a chord with the public too. Christmas will always be a special time for the couple because the festival serves as a constant reminder of how lucky they were to find one another. Comments poured in on Joanna's social media accounts praising their story of how inspiring their love is like straight out of a fairy tale. Many couldn't believe how one simple good deed by an Idaho boy could make so many waves in the world years later. Tyrell and Joanna might live in Idaho, but they love visiting the Philippines for family trips as often as possible. Joanna often proclaims that her family is the greatest gift of her life, and even just a simple moment like cuddling up together makes every day brighter. It amazes her followers every day how one little shoebox resulted in this beautiful and happy family. The smiles on their faces say it all. Joanna Wolf's posts just keep getting more exciting with time. You can view them here and find out more about them through the link in her bio. We're truly inspired by this remarkable Christmas love story, and we wish Tyrell and Joanna a long and happy life together.